Are you ready to come inside? Welcome back to the Collected Home series. My name is Claire, and after spending 3 days with our entire pantry on our kitchen bench and our dining table and basically been feeling a little bit frustrated by all the mess, it is time to start putting it all back together. Today I'm going to be starting with the coffee station, and I'm going to make myself a coffee first off just to give me my little boost of energy. In this series, we're giving ourselves permission to slow down and really understand our house and allow it to evolve. If you were here last week, you know we built our pantry about 2 years ago, and since then some areas have worked well and lived well, and other areas have become dumping zones. I honestly believe you need to truly live in a space to understand how you use it and also how the storage can work for you. I don't believe that you can just get something off Pinterest and use a carbon copy to make it useful in your family, because we all live and use our home in very different ways. And if you're wanting to remove some of that frustration and create a home that allows you to be at your best self, part of that is finding storage solutions that do that too. So last week we went ahead and we emptied out my entire pantry. And in that process, it gave us some clarity and an opportunity to not only sort of review the dump zones and the areas that aren't necessarily working for our family, but it also gave me the opportunity to give it a really good deep clean. And I do think with anything in life, any change in life, even as small as updating your pantry, having the clarity of having a clean slate really allows you to get some perspective. There are 3 things I want to cover in this episode. The first one we're going to talk about is zones in a pantry, something that you need to really think about right at the onset if you are redesigning a pantry. Secondly, I'm going to talk you through some of the storage solutions that have worked for us and have stood the test of time, and some that have not. So I will share with you where I got them from. I'll link everything below. Thirdly, we're going to make a list of some of the items that we probably need as we move forward into the next phase of the pantry. Anyway, let's get started. What do is just give the coffee machine a nice wash so that it doesn't go back into the pantry looking grotty. So I actually have a stainless steel cleaner, so I'm just going to use that to wipe the coffee machine down. Nice and easy. It smells so good. It's peppermint and eucalyptus. I actually feel a little bit nervous about moving everything back in. I think it's like now that everything's clean and ready to go, sometimes you can just feel a bit like, oh, I don't want to, I want to make sure. So we're going to reuse this. We had this in the previous coffee area. However, I am going to tuck it into the corner and see if it works there. I've just found, because we had the jars sitting underneath, it was kind of annoying to open the lids. So small tweak, but hopefully it helps improve, our life a little bit. Okay, tea and coffee canisters. I found this little basket and I thought this would help just to warm up the space. So I love the color in here. I love how it looks. But, with appliances, it can start to feel a little bit clinical. And I really want that. I really want a warmer, more authentic, more organic look. So I have found this little basket and I thought we could hang it up here on the... Okay, what do we think of that? So I was thinking we could add the spoons to the basket. And I think it needs a little plant of some sort. I know I said I'd be decorating at the end, but it's hard not to. So before we start decorating the coffee station, I'll just bring in the last of the practical things like the honey pot and the sugar and all the other bits and pieces. Make sure they work on the shelf, because I did take the other shelf away. So we have our honey pot of that. Now we need the sugar and some other bits and pieces. So let's get started with zones, and I want to talk through some of the zones that we had originally in the pantry are going to stay in the same place and some may change. So in this area here, we actually had added stone to create the coffee station area, and we're going to keep the coffee station in here. It makes complete sense to do so. I might just move some things around. I'm going to put all of the big stuff back first to make sure it works. The zones that we need in here is we have our coffee station, we have a cereal zone where we want to have all of our stored dry goods. Then I'm going to have a baking zone where I have the mixer plus also all of the baking goods. And I might even repurpose and clear out one of the drawers to house all of the baking items like you would kind of like a spice drawer. The other thing that I want to store in here is going to be all of our entertaining trays. Once again, I think they're going to go up the top, but I am going to probably have a little bit more order to it this time. Finally, I want to house all of the other dried food and bottles that additional bottles that we've bought, like oil bottles and those sorts of things that can go up top into storage until they're ready to be used. So they're kind of the zones that we're going to do, and we're going to be allocating sections of the pantry for them to sit within. And finally, after 3 days of stepping over mess and clutter, I have finally cleaned out the pantry. I tell you, I have thrown away 3 garbage bags full of stuff that has passed the use by date. I definitely think this is going to be an annual event, but for now, finally, we have the storage solution set up. No, I haven't changed. As you'll see, I haven't actually changed any of the zones that we started with. I just reorganized them and reset them in a way that is going to make sense for us and how we use it. Are you ready to come inside? As you can see, first of all, it is already looking so much more organized than it was. I haven't touched the drawers. I did clear out one drawer, which basically was just filled with junk, and it enabled me to move a load of items that I had on the shelf previously into there. So let's go through section by section. I ended up putting the air fryer on top of the microwave. Previously it was beside it, but this has freed up so much more space for the coffee station. And then I just went ahead and sorted out the top shelf. A bit more thought. I had been jamming things up there in boxes when actually I was able to reduce the waste, reduce the mess in here by removing a lot of the boxes and either popping them into storage containers or putting them into baskets. Let's talk about the coffee station. This might be my favorite section of the entire pantry. The baskets that you see here, I actually had in the front entrance, and there were always a stopgap there because they didn't quite fit. I didn't really know how to decorate them, but I do know that I want something hanging on chain at the front. So they were just kind of there as placement. But I think they look perfect here. They're also really practical because they're housing some of those prepackaged teas and coffees. And I really wanted to decorate. My husband, Derek, wasn't convinced at first, but I said to him, look, just go with it and let me know what you think afterwards. Now, this is actually the sister print of this one that I ended up using. However, it just didn't feel right in the pantry. So I did have this other canvas piece of art that I'd bought from somewhere else in the house, but it didn't quite find a home. So it was actually perfect. And I just painted the frame just to give it a little bit more drama. I used an antique gold. Moved the double shelf set over here. just giving more space in between the tea and coffee and opening up the room. It actually feels so much larger, and it's exactly the same space with exactly the same amount of stuff in it. I did also have a second storage sort of tower, but it was just unnecessary, so that has now gone. Then I just used one of our servings. This is just a marble Lazy Susan serving tray, but I actually love it in here just to elevate the tea and coffee jars and canisters. And previously we had I just switched these two around. Previously, the air fryer was beside it, but actually it was quite bulky and it was really difficult to get into the corner here, which is why it wasn't used. By putting it up here on top of the microwave, it has freed up so much more space. And it also means now that the kids can access the toaster, and it's just a lot more practical use of storage. Now, we do have a fan in here because we have appliances and kettles, and the fan is right there. So as you can see, the air fryer is right underneath that. Ended up just removing a load of junk, and there were a load of boxes up here with items that could just be restocked either into jars. Did some restocking, and that's cleaned up the shelf. All along the top, I just went ahead and unboxed and just resorted all of the platters. I also condensed the baking goods, so I did have a couple of those circular things filled with sprinkles. A lot of those had passed their use by date. And as you can see, the baking area remained the same, but I did actually move all of the wine and wine glasses out of this corner. I've just kept the champagne and a couple of wine glasses, and I've put them into a different location. So that's freed up a load more space there for the baked goods, because I do want to keep everything together. And then as you can see, we have our cereal shelves here, which is really practical. Just cleaned it up. There were some things that we just dumped there that really weren't being used, and so I've just moved all of those around. Finally, our utility section. It still doesn't look overly pretty because it is a utility space. It's not really meant to look pretty, and there will be doors on this eventually, but for now it is organized and it is less visually busy. I don't believe having canisters and containers in your pantry is a necessity. If you're okay using boxes, that is perfectly fine. I use canisters and storage containers for a couple of reasons. First of all, aesthetically, it removes all the mess of all of the different sized and colored boxes. When something looks consistent, it looks less cluttered, and for me, that means less stress. And so canisters and baskets work perfectly for me, but I don't think it's an essential. It just depends on your preference. The other thing I find too is in Queensland, we get pantry moths and we get ants, and having airtight containers mean that your food will stay fresher for longer. So I'm a big fan of that. And just having them grouped, be able to put things in a basket it actually saves a lot of space. And for me, it's a must. I thought I would share with you a couple of the containers that I really love. This is one. I actually have this in two different sizes. These are our cereal containers. First of all, they're easy to hold on to, especially for kids. Obviously, I have larger hands, but my kids who are 5, 6, 7, and 8 can also pick these up and handle them really well. They have a really good quality seal. And they have a seal here where you dispense the cereal, but also the seal around here. So the cereal stays fresh for a lot longer, and I just love these. They actually come in a set of 3 of each different size, and I'll link all of this below in my Pantry Essential list for you. So I actually bought those cereal canisters from Amazon. So this canister I bought from Kmart, and it has actually been a really good quality canister. I was dubious because I have bought other ones from Kmart, and I will show you another one which I would not recommend. But the seal on this is actually quite thick, and it's actually quite good, and it does keep the cereal really fresh. So I love the size. I also have bought a few extra of these for our laundry, which I will use. I just think I think it's perfectly sized. Our tea and coffee canisters are from Amazon. Once again, these are actually really good quality. You can hear that pop as they come off. And I just love the shape of the lid. So these are really lovely as well. They came in a group of 2. And then I also have this kind as well. So these ones they just have a different shaped top. I actually got these from Amazon as well. I think these were a group of 3. Once again, a really good quality seal. Really happy with these. I love the size. You can label them. You can fit a lot in here and they stay really fresh. I also have a load of these style. So I have a few different sizes in these. These I would recommend with caution. So they're actually, I find the glass is actually quite thin. The seal is pretty good. And they do seal well. The bigger ones do seal well, but the glass is very thin. So I have found, so for example, I always feel very nervous getting this out of the cupboard. I had 3 of these. I now only have 1. They smash really easily if they get knocked over. And because they're top heavy and they're quite tall, they can get knocked over quite easily. So I would recommend these with caution. I think the canisters are quite nice. They're perfect, but I wouldn't ever let the kids handle these because the glass is too thin. And finally, the one canister that I have bought that I just have been very unimpressed with, the seal is very poor. And I've even found when you pop it on and there's something in it, it actually just slowly pops off. So these have not worked at all. I'll probably use them in the craft room because I don't like to waste things. I've bought a lot of storage for our pantry and it's only been the one container that hasn't been very useful. So overall, I'm delighted, but ultimately avoid these ones from Kmart. So we are still mid-March and join us next week as we tackle the kids' rooms. So I have had I feel like I need to edit their rooms. I have been spending the last few weeks in there looking around. I have quite a lot to do, so it's probably going to take me a lot longer than not. But because it is autumn and like I said, I'm feeling the need to clean, I'm going to actually be, we have washable rugs in the girls' rooms. I'm going to be taking those out as well as all of their soft furnishings like the curtains and the bed canopies. And we're going to be washing all of those next week and getting ready for the bedrooms 2.0. If you've enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. So before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought. Collected homes aren't meant to be rushed and they aren't meant to be finished. They're meant to evolve with you. It's all about real living and creating a space that works for you and your family. So if you have loved this video and you want to see more, please like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you next week.